what we are specialized in is autonomous vehicle safety and security. So you build a vehicle, your vehicle needs to be sufficiently safe. There is a standard for it in the industry, and that standard has given a lot of responsibility to the human driver, person who drives it. And obviously you can't do that in autonomous vehicles. So that gives a very big challenge in terms of safety and security to extend that thing into autonomous vehicle, and we operate in that sphere. And you're welcome to ask questions around that or any other things you want to. Yeah.
In terms of autonomous driving, do you see any limits to that, wherein like people at the end of the day still have to drive the car? Following scenario, if there were a crash and it was like inevitable that it was going to happen, and the automatically driving car would have to choose between person A or person B, like the collision was going to happen. Would you see that as a limit, because like something that has to be programmed, right, for the car to then decide whether person A, person B, and that would raise like ethical, moral issues?
Absolutely, I love that question. This question has been discussed in this question has been discussed a great deal in our community. Here is the thing: we have to look at the statistics. You have to look at the big picture. How often do you think you have to? You as a human will have to take such decision? How probable is that? Now, I'll give you some statistics. In Germany, there are 3,500 people who are dying from car accidents every year. Globally, it's like 1.5 million. It turns out about 35% of all the fatalities are related to alcohol consumption. So tell you what, a software is not going to drunk drive. So statistically, we'll save a lot of lives if we have autonomous vehicle. I fully agree, in such scenario, it's an ethical question. Now you have a choice to make. Do you save 30% lives? I'm not saying 30% is guaranteed, but we'll definitely save more lives. Maybe it'll be 50%, maybe it'll be 20. Or do we debate about a scenario that is absolutely not very probable? And the second question is, how do you do it when you're a human? Yeah, you also have to make a moral call, right? So that's how I agree, that is a scenario that we cannot solve, but that is a scenario we also cannot solve if a human is driving. And to put another scenario in perspective, there is one thing that, so when we work with automated emergency brake, we had a project actually with automated emergency braking. So whenever you detect an obstacle in front of you, you hit the automated emergency brake. Yeah, first you do give a audio alert to the driver. Then in the second phase, when it's closer, this target to distance is closer. What you do is you give a jerk to the driver, and if he doesn't react, then you do the automatic emergency. Now, the problem is if there is a really soft balloon or that kind of thing in front of you, or if it's really a vehicle in front of you, the car will not be able to detect. So if you can actually literally put a big balloon in front of a car and trigger the automated emergency brake. Here is the thing: you guys drive, right? How many times in your life did you face a balloon in front of you on the highway? It's not probable, but we talk about these things because these are the difficult cases to solve. Even if we do not solve all these, I would bet that we'll save lives, 3,500 in Germany per year. We can reduce it to probably 1,500, or I don't know. I don't know the number. We'll definitely be reducing it. That is human errors are more than computer. When computer fails, fatality happens, and it will fail. There is no way to develop a 100% safe system. That's just not viable. But still, the big numbers, that'll win. All right.
So what would be the perfect world for you in terms of the autonomous driving? Would you like every car to be autonomous in the future, so there's no people driving? Or would you like some kind of a symbiosis with some people driving and there's cars mixed in that? What's your view on that?
it's a great question again. So, what would be the best scenario? Is if I understand your question right, what would be the best scenario? If everything is automated, or if we have a mix? Before we go to the best scenario, let's think about what's possible. Where we stand today. So, today, to the best of my knowledge, in no countries fully autonomous is allowed. Even if you have it in your car, it's disabled. So the reason is we don't have enough test data. We're collecting a lot of test data, and in Bayern we're building a autonomous lane. So that would help. That will be the first generation. So it will come in several generations. So if you have a lane that is only for autonomous, that is something today's technology can deal with, and this is what we'll see in the first generation. And slowly, most of the cars have got cruise control and distance control and that kind of thing. So it will be partial. So there are 5 levels of autonomous vehicles, as you know. The level 1 is fully human controlled. Level 2 and level 3 is what we already have. You have those cruise control or lane keeping stuff. Level 4 is fully autonomous, but the driver is also in charge when he wants to. It's either or. And level 5 is no driver. So we aim for level 5. There are level 5 vehicles out there in operation. For example, was it in Detroit? I'm not really sure if it's in Detroit. They made those pods, AV pods, and they take seniors from point A to point B. So in a limited scenario, we already have a level 5. So this is kind of like I said, the first generation. In the second generation, we'll probably also see a mix. If what will be ideal, if a mix or full autonomous, this is a question that I think I won't be able to answer. We'll have to see that. However, technically speaking, if we look at aviation industry, mix is always the problem, because you don't know how, when it's a mix, human beings are not predictable. Software is predictable. And this is where most of the fatality happened in the aviation industry. The driver was not sure if it's in autopilot mode or he has to do something. So technically speaking, from experiences, a mix is a bad idea. But what will be actually happening in future, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, we've been talking for a while now about the concept of the self-driving car, the moral questions, and the mixed questions. I'm interested from a more practical aspect. If we take into consideration things that have previously happened with technological advances, especially in regard to cost to the consumer. So as a person who drives his own car, how would the potential of a self-driving car impact things like insurance costs? Because one could imagine that an insurance company at some point in the future, when we get to stage 5, as you described it, wouldn't even potentially allow someone to operate a car on his or her own, especially if we can reduce fatalities at such level, because we're looking at a disparity between the ability of a person to get drunk and have an accident versus a machine perfectly executing something like that. So do you think that one should draw a line, or is it going to be a hard level flip at some point? Are we going to have this discussion where we say maybe humans shouldn't drive at all anymore?
It's a very good question. Before we talk about the cost, it's the question of liability. Today, the industry works like this. You can put a lot of liability on the driver. Yeah, so because the driver is driving. So when the driver is not driving, who is liable for what? Is it the OEMs, the manufacturer of the car, or is it a company like Uber or Waymo who are operating the AV autonomous vehicle fleets, or is it the tier 1 supplier who supplied the braking system, or is it a tier 2 company like us who built the software for the braking system? Who's liable? That question is not answered till today. So if the insurance companies has to take the liability, I think this will be interesting to see how that develops. If it will reduce cost or if it will not reduce cost. I tend to say that since you can put the liability on the driver, today insurance companies or anybody would be more interested on the on that. And it's also a question if the OEMs, the manufacturers or the operators will have to take that much of a liability. Will AV actually happen in reality? I don't know. This is what we have to see, because it's unrealistic to give all the liabilities to the vehicle manufacturer. It's unrealistic to give all the liability to a tier 1 supplier. And who will take the liability? I mean, so far, there were millions of cars, there were millions of people where you can distribute the liability in a way that was what didn't harm the industry in a sense. Well, it was not good for the individuals, and which made the individuals more responsible, probably. Now we don't know. Who to sue? When something happens, who do you sue? You can't sue the driver because he's not driving. Who do you sue is the question. Good question, yeah.
You talked earlier a bit about the mix between autonomous cars and people driving could be a problem. How do you see that transition going? Because I think isn't a big part of autonomous cars is the cars being connected to each other. So how do you see that transition going, where you'll have me and Jan's car talking to each other, but then someone else just driving between it? Like, how do you see that being a big problem? Should it be should some roads be only available to autonomous cars, because the flow of traffic could be better?
Very good question. So we'll see we're seeing right now 3 biggest disruptions in automotive industry. One is electrification of cars. So this will change the industry. The second is what you mentioned, connected vehicles. And the third one we all are talking about, autonomous vehicle. These 3 things will change the industry once and for all. Now, all these things are interconnected. So what you mentioned is a connected vehicle. Now, we were depending too much on there are several sensors that we have when it comes to a car. You have a radar, you have cameras, and you have a LiDAR array of radars that detect. So we also have ultrasounds and everything, but these are the major ones when you're driving. So the problem is we need other kinds of information for detecting the position of the actual car. Yeah, so the challenge is always to map the position of the car. We have GPS, but GPS is not accurate, as you know. We have to map the position of the car relative to the vehicle next to you. And the scenario you just mentioned, it's all about positioning. So the good news is there is this technology called GNSS. So that technology is about extremely accurate positioning. There is this American company called Trimble, and they have a lot of stations where they simply detect GPS from all the satellites, and they have been collecting the data for years, decades. And what they do is they compute the relative error, because they know the exact position of those stations, and they know what the GPS is telling me. There is a delta. They compute that, and from that computation, they know, okay, if this data for this vehicle is telling me this, there is a delta there. They know the error. So this is how they can compute very accurate geographic information, and that is going to help in such scenario. Question is always the cost, because this is a service that requires a lot of infrastructure. Right? So they're trying to come to the automotive market, but an automotive market is a very cost-sensitive market. Yeah, it's really about the cost. This is one solution. The other solution there is like we have long-range, more sophisticated radars, and we'll see how the technology develops. But today, just to answer your question, with today's technology, as you've seen some fatalities during the testing and everything. This is an area where we need more work. We need more work to be done. Yeah.
Do you know how many people are actually, or is there data as to how many people are actually willing to let themselves be driven by like an automatic driving car? And I'm asking because I'm thinking of two groups of people. One being those who just do not have the financial means to buy like an electric car, and I understand that like this industry is still in development, but you know, not everyone can afford a Tesla, and I see that there's like Twizzys and stuff which are obviously more affordable. But then even like all these battery issues I've heard, or the fact that it's just pretty expensive. So those being the first group of people, and the second group of people just being like passionate drivers, you know, like myself, I just love like driving a car where I can hear the engine, you know, and there's just like emotion, there's just like emotional sense to it. So I guess my question is there any data as to how many people are actually saying, yes, like I'm fully for it, or conversely, no, I'm like fully against it?
Great question. There is no data to the best of my knowledge that I know. However, we have seen companies like Uber taking off. That means it brings convenience, right? It brings you time. Time is the most valuable asset. Yeah. If you're coming up with a business idea and if you can give people time, that's it. Your business will win. Yeah, I will be your investor. Yeah, if you have such idea. So AV is buying us time. This is where that will win. It's not, obviously a passionate driver as yourself who wants to enjoy driving. That's a different cases. However, in your day-to-day life, we live in a time that we are actually outpaced with the speed. Yeah, with the speed that we have, the way society is moving. So all we care for is saving time, and that's where it's the business case will definitely win.
Okay, so you're saying that if we have autonomous driving vehicles, it's ultimately going to save us time.
Yes.
Okay.
It's going to save us time. It's going to bring much more convenience. You'll be able to. This will probably be your living room or your mobile office. Yeah, where you'll be able to work, communicate, do conferencing. I've seen General Motors took a patent for a conferencing system in an autonomous vehicle. Yeah, so those are the futures that we are looking at. Yeah.
Okay.
If we are getting to the stage 5 of autonomous driving, there is probably a chance of getting hacked, so the system or the car. So is there a way that you can prevent this completely or fully, that a car cannot be hacked, or is there always a chance that it can be hacked?
I love this question. You're really getting into the topic that's really my passion. Yeah. So if you look at today's vehicle architecture, it's so easy to hack into this car. Pretty much anybody can do it, but it's not happening. Any idea why it's not happening? Why aren't people doing it? It's not that human beings are, we know that people will do it if it's possible. Why aren't they doing it? What do you think? Payoff is one thing. And second thing is, there are other targets which are much easier and they're getting more money, like ransomware and everything. So the entire, the internet criminal industry, if you may call it, is focusing totally on something different. Here's what's going to happen. Those things will be more and more difficult to hack into, and then they'll look for easier targets. And it's just a question of time this will happen to our cars. Now, is there any way to prevent it? The question is yes and no. It is possible, 100% prevention. So what we do when we think about such things is we draw an attack tree. An attack tree is you think about an attack from an attacker's perspective, and then you think of how can you access that. Imagine that somebody wants to steal the key of your car. Yeah. So what are the possible ways? One is even that they physically steal it from you. That's there. Now, and then we assign probabilities. How probable are they? And cost. What is the cost of an attack? If the asset that you're trying to protect, in this case, it's your vehicle, if the asset is more expensive than the cost of the attack, only then it's interesting. If it's the other way around, if the asset has lower cost than the cost of your attack, nobody will, in a sane mind, do it. I'm not saying nobody will do it. You might have some emotional reason to do it, but there is no economic incentive to do that. Yeah. So what we typically, if an OEM comes to us and tells us to do this kind of analysis, what we do is we consider Moore's law, because technology will be cheaper and more faster with time. Moore's law, in 18 months, everything will be doubled and cheaper. And we think about 20 years lifespan of a car. We compute what will be the possibly the latest technology in 20 years. And with that computation power, what will be the cost of cracking this car? And if that cost is higher than the cost of the vehicle, we're safe. This is how we solve this problem, because it's unrealistic to think that you'll be protected. I mean, if quantum computing comes, everything will be, apocalypse anyway. Nothing will work anymore. But that's a whole different discussion for another thing. The point I'm trying to make is there's no way, or it's not feasible to protect to up to 100%.
Now, before you were talking about trends, and in regards to your company and your market share, how do you deal with change?
How do I deal with change? This is a really good question. I love that. Change management is becoming, one of my friends is thinking of doing an MBA at a Technische University at München, and it's on change management. So change management is difficult because people are resistant to change, including myself. Any change comes, first, we're all reluctant. So, and I believe that what will make you outstanding in our time is if you can deal with changes. So whenever there is a new technology coming, in our industry, so I will I give you the answer in two folds. First, how do you deal with the changes in the industry? That is actually, whenever a new change comes, that is actually a kind of like a market that we want to. That's an opportunity for us. Yeah, we will prepare for it. We will start podcasting about it. We'll be educating the market. We'll be ready for the industry to come to us and help them, and we'll sell our service in that. This is kind of like a opportunity for us. On the other hand, the changes that we have internally because of the market change, this is difficult. You have to be ready. You have to create a company culture that doesn't allow people to have a routine for too long. You have to keep interrupting. You have to have, like we call it, positive disruption. Yeah, you have to disrupt the current system, because the only way you can get better is if you disrupt and implement something better, and it's a continuous process.
Not so much a question on the was it tier 5 where it's fully autonomous, the cars, but more maybe tier 3, tier 4. What you see right now with cars is that a lot of people put aftermarket parts on their cars and tune their cars and do all sorts of stuff to it. How do you see that being a problem, or do you see that being a problem when it comes to parts of self-driving cars? If people start to alter the stuff themselves? I see, like, if, for example, BMW releases a car, they are in a way responsible or liable for what that car does. But if you start to change stuff yourself, which is a big part of the car industry, how do you see that being?
That is a big problem. That is a big problem. There's a legal problem. There's a technical problem. What's happening today is if you buy a Tesla, your autonomous feature is not enabled. But there is a way to hack it. And people will figure it out. Yeah? Who takes the liability is the question. Yeah. So that is a big problem, and this problem will occur in time and time again when it comes to autonomous vehicle, the car tuning. The automotive industry, they have taken a lot of measures to prevent it from these tunings and stuff to happen. And right now we have a layered architecture. The layered architecture is, we have the inner layer where you have the most safety critical components. And this is usually not replaceable by a tuner. This is what the technology, it's a requirement. We have to build our software like that. I'm not saying it's invincible. You cannot break it. Yeah, it is. You can break it, but you have to keep a lot of protection layer. Your infotainment system, and are you familiar with the OBD2, the diagnostic port of the car, where you can actually plug in, and that will be even open for cell phones. Yeah, so this will actually facilitate a lot of innovation. So when your OBD2 is open for everyone, this is like it's like the Apple Big Bang, right? You know, if you let everyone participate in the party, it will work like that. But that will also bring a lot of challenges, like the ones you mentioned. Yeah, because in end of the day, it's the question, especially in automotive industry, it's a question of liability. We have seen in the automotive industry how much you might have to pay because of this liability issues. So that is a sensitive. This might even prevent innovation to take place in a faster pace, because this is a liability issue. Yes.
So this is something which hits home for me, actually, because I come from a semi-agricultural forestry background, and my family is actually one of the very few families these days who drive off-road, all-wheel drive cars, not because they look nice and they have a lot of space for the kids in the back, but because we actually have situations where we need a car that can go off-road, and we do have instances where we need to do something like take a tree apart and be able to throw that all in the back. Now, my question would be is there even, or if at all, what is the industry looking at doing with autonomous driving in a more off-road setting, right? Because as long as you have things like regulated lanes for cars where they have guided systems and communicate with each other, that's all fine. But the moment you go off the road, what happens with autonomous driving then?
You're asking really the right question. This is one of the challenges. So one of our clients sent us the pictures of German roads where there is no marker for the lanes. Yeah, it is so difficult to solve that. And I don't really, to the best of my knowledge, I don't really know anyone who's working on the off-road vehicle really. In agriculture industry, there are some companies. There's some companies in the agriculture industry where they're doing is they're building kind of like agricultural robots, and they're relatively easier to program because you have the territory is fixed. So if you have a fixed territory, then it's possible. But one car that will be able to do everything today, I'm not aware of that. That's especially off-road. Wow, I mean. Yeah, maybe with geographic information system you can do a little bit of autonomy in it, but fully autonomous will be challenging. Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm interested in your opinion on Tesla.
Yeah.
As in, if you see a future for Tesla where other car brands enter that market as well of autonomous driving.
Yeah.
And perhaps which car brand you see most potential in?
Okay, it's a fantastic question. I definitely see potential in Tesla, although other cars will also come in the market with the same level of autonomousness and electrification and all those. The reason is it's branding. I'm fascinated by, within a such short span of time, the branding Tesla was able to establish. It is comparable to big brands. Yeah, I mean, that is just amazing how Elon Musk did the branding of Tesla. It's not because of the technology. It's not because it's new. Whenever I talk to autonomous vehicle to people, they automatically start talking about Tesla. Although, German car manufacturers had this autonomous vehicle program. There were electric cars were out there. If I start talking about electric cars, they talk about Tesla. So this branding is just amazing. And because of this branding, end of the day, the brand is the one that will capture the market. They did a great branding, and I think that's why they'll win.
Have you ever thought about what you're doing to your customers right now, like to Porsche, if it comes to the stage 5? Because why would I still need to own a car if I can literally just order an Uber and go anywhere?
That is the hope. There is this technology visionary author, Salim Ismail. He wrote a book, Exponential Organization, and he talks about the way he sees the world. Because of autonomous industry, it's going to disrupt not only the vehicle industry, it's also going to disrupt the lifestyle. Real estate price may go down because of this, because distance won't matter. Yeah, the traffic that we have today, we will have much better traffic because everyone will not own a car. So this will also help the environment. So this is one theory. I don't know if theory will hold. We'll only see. Another theory would be that you will see more cars, even though there will be autonomous vehicle. If autonomous vehicle will really reduce the traffic and reduce the number of car, and people not own any car, this is a theory. I'm not really. I wouldn't bet too much on that theory because of the following. Like you said, yeah, you love driving a car. Yeah, we still care for the brand. We still care for the brand. We still care for an ownership. What could happen is the definition of luxury might change, within our lifetime, and sooner than we think. Now it's cool. It's cool, and it's kind of like a luxury to have a high end car, but cars will not be luxury anymore. What the new luxury that you'll have in your time will be the private jets. The private jets will be commoditized because of drone technology and everything. The cost of a private jet may come down as close to a vehicle that we pay today. So everybody's new luxury, instead of paying 70,000-80,000 for a really high-end car, you will put that 70,000-80,000 on a private jet. So that might reduce. That is something that might affect this. That might validate this theory of Salim Ismail that it will reduce the cars in the market. Thank you for listening. It was really fun. In this podcast show, we bring in the industry leaders and experts in the automotive domain to share their experiences along their journey. The mission of our podcast is to start a dialogue that will allow us to understand the development of automotive industry and where the automotive industry is going. You can ask questions to our guests directly. Just send us an email to podcast@matrix.de. We'll schedule a call with you during the recording and you'll be part of our show. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any new episodes. Please share this video to help others get enlightened as well, and that would mean a great deal to us. See you in the next episode.